while since the Seiyuu actually has sang anything for, let's say, 2D music projects or anything else, because it no longer does that. We are going to talk about Hosoya Yoshimasa, one of the biggest what-ifs in the 2D music industry and also in the music industry, because he had the potential to be massive, but some issues actually got in the way, and barely anyone knows that he was bound to be one of the greatest singers among male Seiyuu, I feel, but unfortunately, fate had other plans. So let's kick off this episode of Seiyuu Lounge. Welcome to Seiyuu Lounge, I'm your host Vanessa, and in this episode let's talk about the what if or what could have been if Hosoya Yoshimasa actually managed to protect his vocal cords, not have that issue that he actually had to battle with and recover from, and he could have continued to sing. Because, as you all know, Hosoya Yoshimasa, especially in the early 2000s, let's say, because of the Prince of Tennis anime series and then the music CDs that they actually released for each character, with each character actually getting a full-on CD and even having a live show or tour. I don't recall if it was a tour, but I believe it was a show. As you can tell, this episode doesn't have a script and I haven't double-checked anything, so if you feel something is wrong, please double-check it yourself. So, Hosoya Yoshimasa was really big in the late 2000s. I feel alongside Mamoru Miyano and KISHOW, he was actually one of the biggest talents when it came to singing character songs. And people were really excited about him because he is really, really talented. If you actually paid close attention to his performance for the number 6 anime, he performed the song in acappella and it is downright beautiful. Now imagine if he had continued to sing, if he didn't face those problems with his vocal cords, if he actually didn't lose the vocal range because he lost some of the vocal range when he returned from his recovery, if he actually had not suffered what he suffered, he actually would be one of the people that would be for sure hired to be in aoppella. I believe he would have been, for a wide variety of reasons. He could perform a cappella music really well, with a beautiful voice, with a really interesting high tone, with a slight vibrato or tremolo there, because I don't even know if he had a full-on vibrato. It felt like a real vibrato, but it could have been a really skilled tremolo that he could actually mimic. But still, his voice was really, really sweet and gentle and really interesting to listen to. He had a ton of emotion in these performances, which was something that I really loved a whole lot. And there was a time in which, for example, Rejet, when they were creating those drama CD series, which they were kind of pioneers in creating those sort of disturbing, confusing, and really dramatic sort of drama CDs for their stories. And Wolf Saga was one of those, and Hosoya Yoshimasa was there, and he performed the song with KISHOW, which I actually showed you all during a live stream of Monthly Review, I believe in 2024, in December. I feel it was when I showed you that song. And it was unbelievable how he was singing much better than KISHOW. And KISHOW is a professional singer, let's say, because it's been so many years with Gran Rodeo that he's already, we can say, a professional singer. He does that for a living more so than being a voice actor, a seiyuu, let's say. And still, Hosoya Yoshimasa actually had a better performance than KISHOW had. Then again, KISHOW for Reject, for Wolf Saga, it was also the same thing, but still put against Hosoya Yoshimasa was really interesting, because you would think Yoshimasa would be kind of buried within the mix, because the mix would favor a powerful, dramatic voice like KISHOW's, although that was not what happened. What actually happened was that both voices ended up harmonizing really well, and within the harmonization, Hosoya Yoshimasa's voice actually stood out, which is impressive. Then we go to the music that he actually performed for the Prince of Tennis series, and he was unbelievably good. Some of the songs from that CD are still on replay for me. So this is something that is crazy. It's been almost 20 years, mind you, this has been a long time. CCA has performed those songs, and although the songs sound completely dated, you can already tell that these songs are old when you listen to them, because back then, character songs and, let's say, 2D music were not really a thing taken too seriously. It was more of a gift given to their fans. The possibility of listening the characters that they love singing something. Now it's a business, really. 2D music is a thing. Character songs are not a thing anymore. Barely any anime series have character songs right now. You have more groups debuting within anime series or 2D music projects with full-fledged professional groups in which the music is really professional, the delivery is really professional, and you could never tell they are a 2D group. They, like you would say, for example, when you listen to a character song from the 2000s, in which you can immediately say, this is a song for an anime because it sounds really amateurish, it sounds really basic, but now things are slightly different in terms of the quality, even of the performances and what is expected of the Seiyuu. But back to my initial point, when he was performing for the Prince of Tennis series, the album, and then the live show, he actually impressed a whole lot. I watched the live show. At the time, I don't recall where I watched that show, and I have the album, and the album is really, really good. That's one of the, let's say, for me, and seeing how things went with Hosoya Yoshimasa, that's the last thing I have of him performing, and what I can pretend it is an album of his, when he never released any music, he never debuted as a solo artist. But there were talks and there were rumors that he would make a solo debut eventually, seeing as he was really talented. People really loved him a whole lot back then, and they still do, which is amazing. And he was alongside Mamoru Miyano, KISHOW, and Toshiki Toyonaga. He was pretty much one of the best singers among them, if not the best singer back then. I reckon he could have been the best singer because he had a massive vocal range and a really interesting control over his vocals, but we never got much to see beyond what he showcased back then, and back then he was not taking things overly professionally because those were character songs. Now imagine those character songs are really well performed if he had performed that in a really amazingly professional way, like Seiyuu usually nowadays take music that seriously, especially character songs. It would have sounded amazing. I keep on saying, if you listen to his acappella for the number 6 anime, you can imagine him being in the aoppella franchise, quite possibly within Lil Happy, because of his vocal range. He's a tenor. Because of his vocal range, he has a sort of a baritone-ish, tenorish voice. I feel he's between both ranges, but I don't have any information regarding his vocal certification in terms of what is his vocal range officially. And we never got to see much beyond some high notes and also some low notes. We can assume he is a baritone with a really solid high range. That would be a good bet, but also the most common voice tone for men is a tenor, so he can be a tenor with a really good lower range. So we don't know. When I look at what Hosoya Yoshimasa could have been and the talent that he brought for those Reject songs, for the Prince of Tennis series, then for Ensemble Stars, which was a really short tenor with Ensemble Stars until he actually had that problem with his vocals and he had to stay 1 year away to recover and actually do surgery and everything else. That was really, really dramatic. People were actually pretty worried at the time if he actually would even return as a voice actor, because what he had and was struggling with would have led to him having to choose if he wanted to continue to be a voice actor and eventually lose his voice, or stop being a voice actor and keep his voice. Which is really messed up, a choice you can have when you are in your early 30s and you are booming in popularity. I remember at that time people were really crazy about him because of Arslan Senki, the anime series, and also of Shingeki no Kyojin, Attack on Titan. People were really worried, and rightfully so, because the prospects were not necessarily positive. And seeing as he's one of the most iconic voices, I would say, in anime, most people know his voice by heart, and he voices some of the most lovable characters there are, even if sometimes misunderstood. for some people like myself who found him through some projects that are really obscure right now, and then eventually landed on him singing in Prince of Tennis. I'm not a fan of the series Prince of Tennis. I've never watched an episode because that anime feels slow for me, but I've followed the music almost religiously when it came to Hosoya Yoshimasa, and later on with Daisuke Ono as well. But yeah, I really loved what he did there. I felt that he had amazing potential to be one of the biggest names in the music industry among male Seiyuu. I feel that right now, if everything had went well for him, and he didn't have to unfortunately go through all that ordeal a couple of years back with his vocal cords and having to do surgery and recover from that, we would be right now talking about his 10th or 15th year of career as a solo artist. Would be awesome to have experienced that, but then again, that's a what if, what could have been. We don't even know. That's a pity because potential was there, talent was there. He obviously had a ton of talent to sing. What happened a couple of years ago, and he actually surprised everyone on his YouTube channel, was that to thank his fans, he recorded a cover of a song. So we actually went behind the mic to sing again for the very first time in almost 10 years. And I listened to that really excitedly. So I was thinking, well, the prospect was that he may never sing again if he actually pushes his vocal cords to a maximum like he was doing back then. So I would think maybe he's not going to sing at all. He was actually singing. The thing is, if you listen to his performances with the Prince of Tennis anime and for his character, and you listen to his performances for the Kiniro no Korda series, as well as you listen to his performances for Reject, the early games and drama CDs, and then you listen to that first performance, with my eyes closed, I could not recognize his voice. That's crazy how much range he lost. That's crazy how weird he sounds. Not weird in a negative way, but it sounds foreign. It doesn't sound like him, especially when you are used to listening to him singing. Especially if you created that muscle memory of listening to him singing for the Prince of Tennis CDs. When you get to that performance and then the other covers that he did on his channel, you notice that the voice, although it is the same essence, the emotion is still there. He's really an emotional singer. One of the things that I love the most about him. You notice that somehow it lacks vocal range there. It doesn't go as high as it did before. Lower range singing, not really an option right now. So he actually stayed within a comfortable mid-range, which makes him sound normal right now. Normal is not really a bad thing, once again. But the uniqueness of his voice, the uniqueness of his range, the unique way in which he performed is no longer there. He still has the same passion, he still has the same technique to bring a lot of emotion to his performances, but the vocal range, if you pay close attention and you listen to one of his songs from 2007 and then now listen to his covers on his YouTube channel, you will understand that he doesn't sound the same. Now you will say, but Vanessa, people grow old, the voices change, or you may not even be singing at full capacity or full power. Those are things that make sense to actually think about and actually bring to the conversation, although what he sounds like is like someone who went through hell with his voice, tried to recover his vocal cords with the best practitioners in the world, tried to recover the ability to sing and voice act and not strain his voice to another level in which the vocal cords will really break completely and nothing will be done to actually rescue them next time around. It sounds completely different. And that's a result of surgery, that's a result of recovery, that's a result of having to rewire him in a way that he would not break as easily next. And that meant maybe losing some, if not most, of his vocal range. That's a thing that happened. And that's something that, unfortunately, led it so that even if he wanted to be a solo artist, I feel that he would not be as special as it would have been if he had debuted before he had the issue. Once again, he couldn't control that, and that's unfortunate, which, once again, I say it's the biggest what if, and I feel that right now, instead of me being gushing all the time about Soma Saito and Yumuchi and everything else, I would still be gushing about Hosoya Yoshimasa, because honestly, it was my favorite singer back then. It was devastating to hear those news. I cannot even imagine in his place to see his livelihood at stake because his vocals were breaking, because his voice was not keeping up, because he was on the verge of losing everything he worked really hard to have and to be vindicated in an industry that is really hard to actually be vindicated in and establish himself as a household name. People know that when they hire Hosoya Yoshimasa, you are getting the most emotional and powerful performances. And when it came to the music, it was the very same thing. So I feel this is the biggest what if when it comes to the music industry. It's a sore point for many fans because, like me, I feel most of you wanted to see him sing, even if he didn't sing full-time as a solo artist, to hear him sing character songs or to be in 2D music projects, because you could tell that he likes singing. It would be amazing in the aoppella franchise. I keep on telling you, listen to the acappella in number 6 and tell me if you can listen to it without crying, because that's a full-on range of emotions going on in that performance that then escalates to a really massive performance with the instrumental coming in, but it is heart-wrenching as heck. And that emotional range, very few Seiyuu artists have. I've talked about some that really are good when it comes to handling their emotions and conveying those in their performances. You can almost see them smiling as you hear the song. That's really hard to convey because most Seiyuu feel like they are robots. They are performing something they were tasked with, but they are not really that passionate about the performance to begin with, or they don't feel it in their bones. But when you listen to a performance by Hosoya Yoshimasa, especially any song before he actually had to deal with his struggles with his voice and vocal cords, you could feel the raw emotions in there. He actually didn't have any filter whatsoever. You could feel he was almost crying in one performance. You could feel he was feeling the lyrics in the way that he was performing. He's a really good performer to begin with. He can actually convey emotions pretty easily, and you can feel those in your bones. And I keep on saying, if I could go back in time and I could change anything about the Seiyuu industry, I would make it so that Hosoya Yoshimasa didn't have any problems with his vocal cords and could do whatever he wanted. Potentially, maybe making a solo debut. There were hints and there were rumors about that, but nothing really concrete, and maybe and mostly it was speculation from the fans' side. But I would have loved to see what he could have done and where he could have been with 2D music projects, because we don't know. He joined Ensemble Stars. He would be massive nowadays because of that, even more than he is right now. And maybe joining Ensemble Stars would have led him to join other projects a couple of years ago. Probably aoppella. I keep on saying this, but probably aoppella would have been his project. And he would have been the face of the project instead of Ryoto Saka with Lil Happy. So I feel that we missed that chance to have nothing against Ryoto Saka because he's amazing and he has been amazing with Lil Happy. But I feel that if you brought a heavyweight like Hosoya Yoshimasa, the project would have been something completely different, especially the dynamic within that group. But still, we keep on saying this and I keep on saying this. It is a what if. We don't know. We will never know, which is a pity. This was all for me about Hosoya Yoshimasa and what could have been. This is more a rant than talking about facts in here. I was not even checking when was his issue with the vocal cords. I feel it was in the early 2010s. I remember because of Shingeki no Kyojin, but I didn't bring anything concrete here. I just wanted to vent here because I was going through my music and I felt that I have a ton of CDs and I have some of the early stuff from Reject. from 2007 and 2008. I still have those CDs, and I was listening to those songs and listening to him alongside KISHOW, and I think, damn, KISHOW is amazing, but Hosoya Yoshimasa sounded better. And that's the what could have been. Seeing as you look at KISHOW, and KISHOW went on to become massive, he's an amazing singer, mind you, but I feel that next to Hosoya Yoshimasa, that's a tricky comparison, but I would say Hosoya Yoshimasa was a better singer. When it came to the emotional range, Hosoya Yoshimasa was a tad better. When it came to insane control over his vocal range, of course KISHOW is there. But I felt that we needed an emotional singer among male Seiyuu. He could have been that one, but once again, it's a what could have been. So yeah, welcome to my rant basically about how much I wanted Hosoya Yoshimasa to actually be a solo artist, or to actually not go through that hell he went through, and what he could have been, where he could have been, what projects he could have joined, especially 2D music that we don't know of, that maybe people were actually thinking now that he joined the Ensemble Stars franchise, we are going to try to bring him to X and Y project, because we feel that he can be the face of the project as well. I feel that some projects actually missed on him because of that, because of his struggles with the voice, and actually having to go on a hiatus for a while, over a year, to recover and focus on voice acting alone. But I feel that he could have been a bigger name when it came to the music. Not that this is something that is detrimental for his career, it's not. Seiyuu can live without even setting foot on the 2D music industry. But as a fan, I wanted to see him do something that he actually showed really a big passion for. Although he said he was nervous when it came to singing live for the Princess of Tennis live shows, I feel that in some capacity, he could have released one album just to appease the fans that wanted him to sing solo and have his own music, and I feel we could have had something really awesome. I think that in some way, this is the biggest what if in the Seiyuu industry. I know that there are a couple of what ifs, but this is the biggest, at least for me. So yeah, he had an amazing voice, on par with Mamoru Miyano and KISHOW. He was one of the best singers when it came to harmonizing with. He had a potential that was off the charts, a control over his voice, an emotional range like no other. Unfortunately, we don't get to hear that anymore, and he may never join a 2D music project. So that's his prerogative. I am happy if he is happy, especially if he is protecting his voice, because I want to hear him and see him doing a lot of work in anime, which is something that he likes and people appreciate a whole lot. So yeah, this was an episode about me ranting about what could have been of Hosoya Yoshimasa if his voice had never gave out, if he had never struggled with these vocal cords and everything else that he had to go through in the early 2010s, which worried a lot of people and may have scared him a lot, because he's a voice actor, his voice was not working, and that's scary as heck. So please let me know in the comments what you think would have been, for example, the Ensemble Stars if Hosoya Yoshimasa had stayed in the project. And of course, if you actually think he would have joined other 2D music projects after that. Let's say projects that debuted after 2015. Do you feel he could have joined any of those? Or in which project do you see his voice back then would actually fit the project? Because I keep on saying, aoppella would have been one, for sure. Maybe Hanadol, him being a fourth member in Lolodi. Can you imagine how crazy that would have been? Because Toyonaga is there and he can harmonize with Toyonaga in a way that is insane. So I feel that that would have been awesome. But yeah, I would love to know your what ifs in this case, although I know that this is a sensitive topic in some capacity, but I'm really curious about that. So please let me know in the comments, what do you think would be the projects he would have joined, the 2D music projects, and if you think he was one of the best singers among male Seiyuu back in the early 2010s or late 2000s, which was the time in which not many Seiyuu were actually performing solo, Very few were singing character songs really well because that was not demanded of them back then. But yeah, I would love to know that. So thank you very much for watching or listening to this episode. If you are on a streaming platform, please consider following this podcast and leaving a review. It's really easy and helps other people finding this podcast. If you are on YouTube and you have yet to actually subscribe to the channel, please subscribe. It's really easy and you get tons of content. Let's say one episode of the podcast every week delivered to you, talking about male Seiyuu artists, 2D groups, and the Seiyuu industry in general in Japan. So if you enjoyed this episode, give it a thumbs up, and well, I'll see you guys in the next one because we have plenty to talk about in the next episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.